congressional candidate. She's an author. Kathy, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
So, Kathy, you're running at a time which I think is quite interesting given the pandemic and also the recent victory on the part of a Republican candidate for Congress in California. Now, that's a little too soon to tell in terms of whether or not that's going to be a what we might call a red wave in November. But I think that it augurs well for the Republican Party, and I think that Pennsylvania in particular is a great opportunity for Republicans, given the, I would argue, the overreaction on the part of your governor and your Secretary of Health with regard to the pandemic. Some of their extreme policies, and at the same time, the whole business of the not protecting the people in nursing homes, I think is a big issue. What are some of the issues you're working on over there?
Well, you did a really great job kind of recapping some of the things that we're contending with. Whether this is a red wave or not, only the American people will be able to come to that conclusion come November 3rd. But what else do they need to realize that the liberal aspect of the Democrat Party is not a party for the working class right now across our nation, specifically in those liberal strongholds, and definitely right here in the state of Pennsylvania. We have businesses that are being shuttered right now, and it is not based on logic. It is not based on science. We did exactly what we set out to do. Early in March, the American people were asked to do the patriotic thing and to voluntarily self-contain. And we were asked to do that specifically to give our leaders time to play catch up with this particular virus. And we accomplished that goal. There are no runs on beds. If you need a ventilator, you can get a ventilator. Testing has ramped up significantly. And so now we never said we were shutting ourselves in, putting a pause on our lives in order to flatten the curve. We never went inside our homes to eradicate this virus. We went in to mitigate it, to slow it down, to give our leaders time to play catch up. And we accomplished that goal. And so now the responsible thing would be for our governors across the nation, including the liberal ones, to take their authoritarian grab of power off our throats and allow us the opportunity to fight for our livelihoods. Right now, I was just reading the latest Business Insider analysis. They are saying that 20 to 40% of small businesses will shut their doors forever. And the longer the states stay closed, the higher that number is going to rise. That should be unthinkable.
And here, even in my own home state of Massachusetts, we are a little bit more, I don't know, I guess you'd say conservative. We have a Republican governor, and we are beginning to reopen the state. As of today, places of worship will be reopened and several other businesses, and he's doing it in phases, which I think is sensible because, we still have this contagious extreme flu, and it's dangerous for people. But that the curve has been crossed, and that the new cases in our state are way down, have been down for 2 weeks. Now, in Pennsylvania, on the other hand, I think that there has also not been new cases, and yet the state is continuing a complete lockdown. Why do you think that is? Do you think that they're taking orders from the Democrats nationally, or what's going on? Yep.
I do, and I don't know if you recall when we were as a nation, when the House of Representatives were trying to decide on the third stimulus package, and James Clyburn, who is the majority House whip. I can't remember exactly how he said it. I don't remember verbatim, but your listeners can definitely Google him because it went viral when he said it, is that COVID-19 is a wonderful opportunity for them to kind of realign the nation to better fit their idea or vision of the country, right? And that has been, and we see that all throughout these liberal strongholds. Listen, Here in the state of Pennsylvania, 70% of the deaths tragically has occurred in nursing homes. In the county in which I live and I'm running to represent from a congressional perspective, 88% of the deaths right here in my county has occurred tragically in nursing homes. That is tragic. Now, adding insult to that injury, maybe even wrongful negligence here, is that our Secretary of Health, Dr. Levine, mandated that these nursing home facilities, these long-term care facilities, take in COVID-19 positive patients. That's like putting the fox in the hen house. We recognize that some of the most vulnerable people as it relates to this virus are those with compromised immune system, those who are more mature in age, those who have comorbidities. And we recognize from the very beginning when we looked at Seattle, Washington, when this virus first took off and we saw it just run like wildfire through the nursing home there, we knew that we needed to protect these most vulnerable people. But what does our Secretary of Health do? Mandates for these facilities to take in COVID-19 positive people. These particular people in these nursing home facilities, long-term care facilities, are not only trapped in these places, but I believe they have been targeted. Why on God's green earth would anyone think that it's a brilliant idea to place the virus into this confined space with some of the most vulnerable people? And now you and I, as citizens, we have to say to ourselves, wait a minute, we've been told that we need to shut in now because we need to do the patriotic thing and protect the most vulnerable. So while our livelihoods are being decimated right now, we have leaders who are intentionally targeting some of the most vulnerable people.
You know, it's an incredible.
It is time to be silent no more on this.
Oh, it's an incredible charge, and you're framing it exactly right. The New York as well, the New York and Pennsylvania, both liberal Democratic governors have this really bizarre policy that has to be explained. Of literally,
it has to be explained.
Yeah, taking people who are testing positive with COVID out of hospitals and putting them into nursing homes. Now, in Massachusetts, we haven't been doing that. If someone is testing positive for COVID in the hospital and they don't have a place to go and they're released, we have special hotels that the state rents out in Greater Boston, where there's professionals who can care for them and where they stay. Not nursing homes. I mean, to me, this is an atrocity. This is almost like it's criminal. And the fact that these two governors, Cuomo and Wolf, now they're reversing the policy. At least Cuomo is. I don't know about Wolf, but if they had been conservative Republicans, they would probably be, facing, murder charge right now. I mean, it's really a terrible situation, and I'm glad that you're bringing it up and emphasizing it. I think it is one of the issues that I hope we drive home as the election in November approaches, because we simply want a logical, coherent explanation, at least, for this policy, if not resignations. And by the way, your health commissioner, Levine, didn't you just point out that she literally took her own 95-year-old mother out of the nursing home, in advance? So obviously she knew how bad this policy was, the policy that she was responsible for implementing.
I mean, think about that for a moment. Let that resonate. I've been telling people, listen, yes, I am the endorsed Republican candidate for the 4th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. But this issue that we're contending with right now, it's not a Republican issue. And it's not a Democrat issue. It's not an independent issue. It is our issue. It is an American issue. Our rights have not been suspended because of COVID-19. It makes no sense whatsoever that we have people, so-called experts, who have, by the way, been wrong on every single issue from the very beginning of this war that we're now waging against COVID-19. Now they're coming. They have been found lacking. They have been found to be incompetent and downright negligent, I believe. I believe it is something very sinister that is going on, that while Secretary Dr. Levin when our Secretary of Health in Pennsylvania is mandating these nursing facilities to take in COVID-19 positive patients, its mother is being relocated out of such a facility and placed in a secure hotel. Why is that?
Exactly.
Why is that? And not only as they're bringing in these COVID-19 positive patients, I know from firsthand experience with my own two eyes, I've witnessed that these nursing home facilities were not given proper PPE equipment. They're not walking around wearing N95 masks. They're walking around wearing the cloth mask that you and I are probably walking out to the grocery store in. This is huge. This needs to be brought out and talked about. We should not be able to stand for this. And then you couple that with the fact that we are losing our livelihoods. I grew up as a little Black girl on a pig farm in southern Alabama. I grew up below the bottom rung of the economic ladder. Everything I've been able to build, I worked for it. I didn't inherit it. I wasn't given a welfare check for it. I had to discipline myself. I had to work for it. I had to sacrifice. And now, with the wiggle of their pen, these particular progressive leaders are deciding winners and losers. And it just so happened that the middle class is coming up short on that stick. Globalist large companies like the Walmarts, the Home Depot, the Lowe's, they are going to be the winners in this whole thing. But the rest of us, the middle class, they are siphoning off our savings by keeping the economy closed and we can't get to work. And they're forcing us to lose our livelihoods. And why? Why? This virus is not the death sentence that we were told it is. People are contracting it. People are overcoming it. It is time to reopen. It is time to actually pay attention to the numbers, to the figures, and reopen our nation.
I mean, about 98% of those who contract it either have no symptoms at all or they are sick for about 2 weeks, which is a very conventional thing with the flu. And that the people who are hospitalized and dying, the vast majority, the highest percentage of morbidity is people who are 70 and up or people who have pre-existing conditions that usually emanate from obesity, such as diabetes and high blood pressure, it's those people that we ought to protect. Now, Kathy, you are the author of you're an adjunct professor, you're a self-made person, you're the author of Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain: Being Black and Conservative in America. And that, of course, comes from President Trump's comment to the Black community when he was running for office. You've got nothing to lose. What have the Democrats offered African Americans? And why should Democrats vote Republican? African Americans vote Republican?
Because it's the same thing to do. I ask Black people all the time. I mean, we have been voting Democrat in large block for the past 56 years. We are, the Black community, the Democrats' most loyal constituents. There is no one more loyal to the Democrat Party than the Black community. And then my question to the Black community is, what exactly have we gained for our loyalty? We know what they gain. The Democrat Party cannot win the White House without at least securing 85 to 90% of the Black vote. So we know what they gain. But what exactly have we gained in return for our loyalty? Because our streets are some of the most dangerous streets in the nation. Our low home ownership, low good jobs in those particular areas. We have some of the poorest streets, some of the most poorest education systems in our communities, rat and rodent infested streets that our children are growing up in and being told that this is normal. What exactly have we received from the Democrat Party? And like I also say to the Black community, you don't like Donald Trump, President Trump, okay, fine, I don't care. The only thing, I've never tried to convince people to love this president. The only thing I've ever tried to convince all people, Black and white, but specifically the Black community, is to recognize when someone is working in your favor and then have the good sense to get out of the way so they can continue to work in your favor. It is completely illogical. It's like putting COVID-19 positive patients into a nursing home facility. It is completely illogical illogical to have someone working in your benefit, as this president's policies has done, and then to be an obstacle to that person. It makes absolutely no sense. Every single issue the Black community has come to both sides of the political aisle and presented their issues to, this president, President Trump, has addressed it. Whether we're talking about opportunity zones, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars into some of the most distressed communities, this president did it. Bringing in jobs to these distressed areas will improve your property value, will improve the types of businesses that come into your neighborhoods, will improve your school system. So this president did it. Whether we're talking about the prison reform, this president did that.
That's right.
It wasn't Obama, it was President Trump.
That's right. That step one prison reform resulted in the release of, I think it's 10,000 prisoners nationally, probably about 80% of whom are Black, and who were in prison for minor crimes, who should never have been there in the first place. And that's really just the first step in this agenda. That's something that President Trump talked about as a candidate, and it's something that he worked hard to do as president. And you make the case very well, Kathy, about with regard to what the Democrats offer African Americans. I think they offer them two things: abortion and welfare, and both of which are negatives. Their policies going back to the 60s have been destructive to the Black community. They've hurt the Black family. They've hurt Black religion. They've hurt Black education. They've hurt Black enterprise. We can go through each issue by issue, in the amount of destruction their ideas have done to the Black community in terms of preventing it from, obtaining the level of success and middle class and wealthy position that they would have otherwise obtained, and that they have obtained in spite of the left and in spite of the Democrat policies. So when they usually bring up the usual canards that somehow Republicans have something against Black people, that they're racist, I think that we can respond and counterattack by pointing out what policies really are racist in the de facto sense. What policies really have hurt Black people in this country, and it's theirs.
Yeah, in my book, I have a chapter talking about the harbinger, the warning sign. What can we take away as a nation, as a whole community, an American nation? What can we take away from looking at the failed liberal policies that have literally exploited, decimated, ravished the Black community? What can we as a nation take away from that? And I see the most alarming thing that I see is that liberals have perfected the art of destabilizing the Black community, but not being satisfied with that community. Now those same failed liberal policies are being repackaged and now introduced to the broader American community with promising the exact same results: failure, exploitation, manipulation, and destruction. What do you think Nancy Pelosi's latest $3 trillion stimulus package is not, if not one big welfare program? And the same exact thing that those welfare programs have done to the Black community, it is going to do to the broader American community. It's going to do absolutely nothing but make us dependent. That is another reason I believe the plan of the Democrat Party is very simple in these liberal states that they are continuing to keep closed. It is to force us to drain out our savings, to drain out what we put aside for our kids' college tuition, in order to make us a little bit more agreeable to their government bailouts, to their welfare checks that they're now getting ready to offer us. Of course, they're not going to call it a welfare check. The liberals are calling it a direct payment, right, of $1,200 to every single American. That's just the base. And then they will add to that on a per dependent basis. And we are going to be a little bit more agreeable to these welfare checks. But I promise you, those same failed liberal policies will do exactly what they've done to the Black community. They're going to do it to the broader American community. They're going to make us dependent, and then they're going to exploit us and ravish us. It's not
Yeah,
good.
it,
But that's
it's
exactly what's happening right now.
it's not only that, but I think that Pelosi's bill would also give what you call accurately welfare to illegal aliens, and by doing so, it's going to turn the country into a magnet for illegal immigration. Why not? You come here and you
But it's
get,
also going to do it to you and I. It's going to make you and I mean, if I have to spend, because I can't work, because they're forcing us to lose our livelihoods, and now I have to go and take the money I set aside for my child's education and spend it just to pay bills and to purchase food, I'm going to be a little bit more agreeable when socialists come and say, let us give you universal education, right? Or what about healthcare? I'm gonna be a little bit more open to the
yeah,
discussion of universal healthcare, right? So it's not yes, it is illegals, right? But it's also the American people. It's
yeah.
you and I. It's the
People are
middle
bought
class.
off. No, exactly. Kathy, you're a powerful candidate for Congress. You obviously have a lot going for you. Can you talk a little bit about your race? What is it like on the ground? Who is your opponent, and what is that opponent like? And what is your ground game? Do you have do you have grassroots? Do you have a team? Do you have what are you up to?
Yes. Listen, let me tell you, yes, we've been shut in. The political landscape is very different. I think because this is my first time ever running for political office. My team is very new, very energetic, very energized. But because we're so new, we have not learned the bad habits of running a campaign. So for us, it was very easy for us to pivot from hosting face-to-face meetups, meet and greets, to being able to pivot and go virtual. And we've been tearing it up. I'm so excited about what it is that we've been able to do, the name recognitions, all of that. But this Thursday, my campaign, we're hosting our first protest. We're going to the seat of our county. Thousands of people are already responding.
Oh,
I am
great.
so excited for what is about to happen, because I earnestly believe it is time for us to be silent no more. These elitist liberals, most of whom, have never had to open up a refrigerator and figure out where their next meal was going to come from. These liberal elites who have grabbed power across our nation, they are betting on the fact that because we're law-abiding citizens, that we're just going to shut our mouths and do exactly what we're told. And I am saying no. I am
All
not
right on.
willing to be silent another moment. It is time for us to take back our nation. That Bill of Rights applies to me, whether we're under COVID-19 or anything else. It is time that we reopen, and we got to take it to them. And that's exactly what we intend to do, hosting a peaceful protest at the seat of our county in Norristown in Montgomery County this Thursday, starting at 11 a.m.
All right, Kathy, your comment about the refrigerators reminds me of that Nancy Pelosi commercial that President Trump is running. One of the funniest and best political commercials I've seen in recent years, where she's standing in front of those two $45,000 refrigerators holding up the designer ice cream. And the interviewer says, why aren't you in Washington voting for the working stimulus? Oh, well, that can wait. I'm busy here. It kind of tells you everything you need to know. Anyway, Kathy, I will put up your website, and I really thank you for running, and I thank you for doing this public service. It's really an extraordinary thing, and please, just before we sign off, again, let my viewers and listeners know how they can get involved with your campaign, how they can reach you.
Yeah, whether you live in my district or not is not the issue. We need to retire as many progressive liberals as possible, and ultimately retire Nancy Pelosi. November 3rd is crucial that we win. A red wave flow throughout local and federal government. Please go to Kathy Barnett forcongress.com and donate. We need big donations, small donations. We need you guys to come alongside us and make us viable. We will win. We need you to get us across that line.